Hi, well, thanks for tuning in again, if you're returning, or welcome if it's your first time. So, that piece of wood is the old cover I've been using for the Narrowboat door. This is a piece of steel I managed to get from somebody I know, and I used a bit of wood to use as a template. I made it a little bit wider, because that is going to go across rather than in between this hole, you see. The wood fit in between, whereas I want a good sort of inch to inch and a half overlap with the steel, but following the same line along the top. So I took it to the boat guys, that's Gio there cutting it for me. Did a great job, much better than I could have done. Lovely and straight, because I didn't want wobbly edges. I just popped a bit of steel down there as a little spacer before I offer up the door to get an idea of where my hinges need to go. No weld-on hinges, so I have to clean up the steel first, so that the electric arc can go through it. I also took a little bit of the paint off the top edge of the door, pardon my crack there, off the top edge of the door for the earth-in cable to clip to. So if you see a little chunk out on top, that's why. So I'm just using the grinder here, cracking day. Just using the grinder to clean up the steel so I can hopefully get a good weld. I do think my welding's improving since the first attempt a few videos ago, but it was a low bar, so improving is all relative. So those red gloves are just the cheap gauntlets that I got for welding with, but it turned out to be pretty good for the grinding that I'm doing as well. I'm just cutting out a couple of notches there so it fits under the slides for the hatch. I hadn't banked on having to do that. But it was no biggie. With the grinder it worked pretty well. I can't remember what I'm doing there. What am I doing? Maybe taking off some of this factory scale from the hinges. That might be what I was doing. Oh no, I can remember what I was doing. I realised that the door was standing away by its own thickness from what I was welding it to. And so the hinges wouldn't be flush. So I needed to make a couple of plates and weld those on first to bring the hinge attachment points out flush with the actual door. So I used a magnet to hold them in place first, and then put a few little tack welds in, and then this is me finishing off the final welds on the plates to which the hinges will be attached. It wasn't pretty, but I feel like I was getting decent penetration on the weld. Although when it comes to the actual hinges going on, I did make a bit of a mess. And when I opened the door for the first time, the bottom hinge actually cracked off away from the plate because I hadn't achieved a decent penetration because I hadn't let the pool build up properly, which I sorted by grinding it all flat again and then actually getting off the deck and walking round so I had a much better angle. The angle is really important, according to welders on YouTube that I've watched. You can see I've cleaned off a little bit of the door there to take the hinge, and that's now flush with that bit of plate, you see, which is the same thickness because it's part of that door that Gio cut off for me in the workshop. They're a great bunch over there in Saw Ballyvote, so shout out to Saw Ballyvote. Just before I went in, they were just pulling out a lovely Dutch barge that they'd made. Not massive, I think it was 45 foot in length. Obviously they're quite broad in the beam. It just looked great. I don't know what one of them goes for, but it'd be a really great boat to live on, a Dutch barge. Maybe one day. I take my protection very seriously. I've got the goggles and the gloves on whenever I'm doing any grinding or welding. And the magnet there holding the hinge in place so I can come and tack it on. Not the best magnet, it was a cheap one from Temu, and I borrowed somebody else's the other week and the magnet was far stronger. So So I wouldn't advise getting the magnets from Temu. Spend a little bit more money and get a decent one. They have a tendency to just fall off. You can see I'm wearing my welding hood there, welding mask. Clean up with the grinder. To get out of jail free card for welders. Even if it's a bit messy, the grinder smooths it all down. As long as you've achieved correct penetration on the weld, it should still hold. A little close-up inspection there. You see there's little grease nipples in the top of each hinge there, a little brass thing. So you can pop a grease gun on there and squirt grease into it. So yeah, this is where I did the test open and the bottom one cracked off. I had a bit of trouble getting out the little spacer that I put in, because obviously the full weight of the door was on it. I do eventually get it out, and then discover that I've actually welded up the two halves of the hinge slightly with a bit of spatter. So that meant when I tried to force it open, it just popped the bottom bit of the hinge off, but it's as well to find out that way than when I'm going along and have it fall in the canal. It wasn't difficult to fix. Like I said, I just ground it flat and then went the stud round the side there. You can see it's resisting a bit there. I think I'll move the camera and let you have a look at it popping off. Just a moment. Yeah, I can see there's something up with it already. It didn't look terrible, but yeah, you see that. There you go, look. See it pop off there? So, put the little spacer back under, went round, welded it up again. This is me having coming out. There we go. Opens all the way now. Good strong welds on. Well, strong, they're not good. They don't look great, but they'll do the job. So the next stage was to clean all the rough stuff off the door plate itself using a fibrous disc on the grinder. There we are, look. Smoothed all that stuff off, and then I was able to paint it with Furtan, the rust eater. It should be coming up, there you go. So that shiny blackish look as it turns the rust purple, using tannic acid I think. And I left that for 3 days. Right, I'm just going to talk over myself on this one because I was too quiet. There was a bit of a false start there because someone on the few boats over was hitting it with a sledgehammer trying to straighten it out where it had fire damage. So what I'm telling you is what I was going to do is paint that. The Furtan had gone off, it's all looking black, look, shiny. So that's ready to paint with the Hammerite red oxide paint. It says straight to rust, but I don't see any harm in putting Furtan on first, giving it more of a fighting chance. And before that, I had some diesel to transfer into my fuel tank. Trust me to be buying diesel just when all the prices have gone up because of the situation in Iran, but what can you do? So I got one of my little fuel transfer pumps. I've been selling these actually on eBay as a little side hustle. I've done quite well. You can watch the level go down once I start it running. If you watch the tub, there it goes, look. This is times 9 speed, but even in real life it was pretty impressive how quickly it goes out. So I had 2 tubs of that to transfer in, because you've got to fill the tank really so that you've got a good sort of hydrostatic head pressure in your fuel pipe when you go to initially bleed it through, so you can get it through to the engine and start the engine. So I already had 40 litres in, so this is another 40, that's 80 litres. I think it's a 100 litre tank, so that should probably be enough now. The other reason you don't want an empty tank is because you get condensation on the inside of the tank then, and then you get water forming at the bottom of your tank, which is not good. So that's the 40 litres put in there, just put the last few bits in. I bought the diesel at Kegworth Marine up the road. Just check the level with the dipstick. All very high tech, you see, on these narrowboats. Fuel gauge is a stick. Okay, time to start painting. That's the stuff, Hammerite rust beater, number 1 rust beater, red. I just think when it goes off it looks lovely. It's the same stuff I used inside the engine bay on the sides. Popping it in the paint kettle there. And then I use these little mini rollers. I quite like using these mini rollers. They're a handy size. They give you good coverage, but also quite a bit of control, unlike the big full-size ones you might do a ceiling with in your house. So the first coat didn't look great, but it was a lovely hot day. So by the time I finished doing the inside of the door, this outside part was dry and ready for another coat, which you'll see presently. Get the edges. I did make a bit of a mistake with this door actually when I was measuring. I don't know how I've done it. I think it's because it's sitting lower than the plywood one I had on. So I have quite a big gap at the top when I pull the hatch over. So I am actually going to have to weld a little extension onto it, I think. I'm having to think about it. Either onto that or to the underside of the hatch, which might be a better solution. That's coat 1, just about done. I mean, even there it looks pretty good, I think. It does need that second coat, really, though. So the outside was then ready. I mean, you're only talking half an hour since I started putting it on. There we go, let's do the bits that are hard to reach. Gio did a lovely straight cut on that. I was very grateful to him. Okay, and this is how it looks at the end. I actually ran out of the red stuff, that's why I'm not panning fully left. I've got another tin now with which to finish it off. But I think it looks pretty sweet. I don't know what I was pointing at there. Maybe just saying, look, you can't see the terrible wells once it's painted. I'm sure a welder could. There, and you get a bit of the sunlight on it. I think it looks really nice, if I do say so myself. Yeah, you can see where I've run out of paint on the left there. Don't concentrate on that. So that's up to date. I did pop down and do some more bits on the engine a few days after this, but I didn't record much because I just didn't have time. We're very close to being lifted in now, so I'm concentrating on getting the engine ready. So thanks for watching, and if you haven't subscribed, please do, it really helps. Yep, 7 days from edit day till I go in the water. So if you like, subscribe and hype, that'd be great. Bye!